Some of you may be familiar with the work of Jane McGonigal. She's a game designer who's become an acclaimed futurist in recent days, and she actually ran one of the earliest pandemic scenarios. And in her video game social science simulation, she asked a series of questions, including an interesting hypothetical. And she asked people, under what conditions would you most fiercely resist quarantine and/or social distancing mandates? The number one answer, religious worship. So basically people told us, close down my office, close down my gym, close down my library, take away my favorite football team, I don't care, but don't mess with my spirituality. And so whether that answer surprises or, let's be honest, disappoints you, the fact of the matter is that you may be asking yourself, because I'm a mind reader, you may be asking yourself, why are we even talking about spirituality? This is supposed to be a hip, bleeding-edge technology conference. What does spirituality have to do with technology? Shouldn't we be talking about something more relevant, more interesting, like trading chimpanzee JPEGs or something like that, right? Well, I would like to make a contrarian and sort of a more far-reaching claim to kind of end the conference here, which is that, one, spirituality matters. It matters a lot. In fact, I would argue it's the largest, most global, most important, and criminally, wildly, negligently underserved market in the world, and nothing else is even close. Two, COVID is not only going to be a reset for religious worship, but it's going to actually usher in a whole wave of innovation. So yes, God tech will be a thing. And three, you are in the right place because, as we'll see shortly, Web3 is beautifully suited to address the challenges and opportunities of spirituality as it goes forward. But I didn't get to this through a McKinsey report or a Gartner report or something like that. I got here through my personal lived experience. 10 years ago, right here in Boston, I went through what was easily the most jarring challenge of my adult life, which was a divorce. So I found myself living what I call a double life. During the day, I was a successful Harvard MBA. I was running a big Fortune 500 department. Here I am kind of rocking in New York City on one of my business trips. But then at night, I would come home and I would realize that someone else was going to get to tell me when and where I could see my three beautiful boys again. And so I thought to myself, wow, this is really challenging. So, I tried different things. I went to therapists, I went to church, and none of those things worked. And so I started thinking to myself, well, this seems kind of weird to me. Like, am I the only one that's in this situation? Like, why isn't there like some form of, kind of digital engagement around spirituality? And it kind of hit home to me. I was at Chicago airport coming home from a business trip once. I was very excited because I'm going to get to see my youngest son's lacrosse game, and I get the text and it says your flight's been delayed, and I think, well, okay, I can work with that. I'll show up at the second quarter. And then of course I get the text, which you've gotten before, and it says, no, your flight's been canceled. And I realize, no, that's not okay. And I'm a bad human being and I'm a bad father to boot. And so that's when I realized, okay, there's a problem here and I need to do something about this. And so coming out of the pandemic last year, I decided I'm going to try and marry up my experience and expertise in digital technology and innovation with what I see as a profoundly underserved market, which is spirituality. And so I decided to form Solace a year ago. We are building a spiritual metaverse. And so I'd like to share with you some of the things we're learning about the intersection between technology and spirituality. But first, let's take a step back and, as someone said earlier, introduce one of the elephants in the room, which is that the traditional business of organized religion, let's face it, is broken, right? And there's a bunch of stats and metrics that can make this point, but this one I think does it the best. It's a chart from Gallup, does a nice job. It goes back over 50 years. And you can see there's been this just steady erosion over 50 plus years due to this just battering ram of innovation and social disruption. And so now you get to the point where less than 1 in 2 adults say they are affiliated with a church. And if I wanted to make this chart look worse and focus on millennials, I could. That number would be closer to 1/3. And so this number kind of cropped up on me in sort of a surprising way. I hired 2 college summer interns, and one of them is a very bright young student at Yale Computer Science Department, and we're working on some AI prototypes. And she says, kind of matter-of-factly, she says, well, I've never been to church. I said, well, that's okay. Let's just keep doing our storyboards. And so she draws this picture, and I thought, wow, innocence through the eyes of a child, right? This is a 20-year-old from Yale, and in her mind, she equates religion with sleepy time, right? So if that's where we are, if that's where the data and our human experience says that's where we are, does it even make sense to talk about like a future of spirituality? Well, I think it does, but you actually have to dig into the data a little deeper, and so we've done that here. If you look back at the most recent 20 years, you can see that yes, it's true, all faiths have experienced a steady decline, but interestingly enough, there's one segment that has actually experienced quite promising growth. You might even call it a breakaway religion, except you can't call it a religion because it doesn't have a name. It doesn't have a building. It doesn't have a place to go Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. And so we as a society got clever, and as we do, we made up a name for it. We call it spiritual but not religious, or SBNRs, of which I consider myself a proud card-carrying member. So what are we doing? What is this fast-growing religion all about? What are people, how are they rolling if they're not going to a church or a synagogue? And I like to think of it as DIY spirituality. We're basically making it up as we go along. We forest bathe, we hike, we go to yoga, we CrossFit, we read books, we read videos, we subscribe, we go to soup kitchens. We do a lot of things that are sort of, making it up. But, the problem is, if I were to play kind of the look to your left, look to your right game, statistically speaking, right here, right now, the person on your left and the person on your right, and probably even you, has not or is not making your kids go to church, right? So they don't even know. This is the first generation coming up through the ranks. They don't even know what they don't know, right? They don't have exposure that you would expect to religious icons or history or even how to put together a social, meaningful life. So that's my focus, is I'm trying to kind of hack the future of spirituality. And so I partnered with the Harvard Business School, and I said, what's going on here? Is spirituality dying? Is there a future? Whatever. And they came back and they said, no, spirituality is not declining. That's fake news, but it's being redefined. And so when we look at it and we ask these millennials, these next-gen faith seekers, if you will, what do you want? They say 3 things: community, connectedness, and social impact. Now that may sound different to you all who may come from a different set of religious upbringing, but these are the words that they use. And so, okay, I said this still seems to sound a little woo-woo, like I'm a business guy, I've got an MBA, I'm analytical, I'm data-driven. How do I kind of bring this down to earth? So I basically tried to create what I would consider to be sort of a stylized product requirement document, or what we call an SBNR manifesto. And we think it would go something like this. 1, we want to be able to explore different concepts and experiences in our own place, our own style, without judgment. 2, we want to be able to leverage technology to have more convenient touch points and more consistent digital engagement throughout the week. 3, we want to be able to dynamically form communities and tribes around shared life challenges and events and topics of interest. And 4, we don't want to just talk the talk when it comes to social justice. We want to walk the walk. We want to change the world. We want to make a concrete contribution to social impact. So, okay, let's connect the dots then, the big reveal. How does this emerging, fluid, sometimes weird, jarring trends around spirituality and religious worship, how does that marry up with Web3? Well, what I would like to argue today is that never before in human history, essentially, has the world of spirituality and religion been able to have anything like AI or blockchain or decentralized applications. These are powerful bazooka guns, right? So if we can put these together, I think that Web3 is actually going to profoundly reshape spirituality. So in the past, Where would you have gone for truth or insights? You would have gone to a rabbi or a cleric, right? In the future, you and I will share experiences together, but it will be helped by technology. In the past, we wanted to worship. We would have gone to a building on a specified date, time, place, and space. In the future, we'll just click on our AR Snap Lens or our, Apple mixed reality headset and just have a metaverse meetup. In the past, if we were outraged over social justice, we would have gone to a rally, a watch, a march, something like that. In the future, we'll form a DAO. Prediction. A DAO is going to take down the NRA in the aftermath of the Uvalde shooting. And finally, instead of what I call quiet conversations, praying, struggling, fretting, high anxiety, conversations with ourselves, and according to my research, largely ineffectual, in the future, we're going to exchange what I call proof of kindness tokens to reinforce our best selves. So what does this industry of ours, what does this conference, what's the jab that people like to make of us? Where's the use case? Where's the business? Where's the real contributions? Well, you want real contributions and real use cases? I got tons of them, right? So if I told you that 40% of marriages in the US are interfaith, meaning both parents come from a different religious upbringing, like how do they raise kids? Where do they send the kids for summer school? What do they do and say before and after dinner, right? That could be a really cool custom family smart contract. If I told you that 10% of kids in the US today, 10% are homeschooled, and that of that percentage that's homeschooled, there's a high over-indexing of religiosity. What should they be learning while they're studying math and while mom's on a Zoom call? I would argue that could be a very cool blockchain-based learning game. Or how about the 58% of women 75 plus that survive a deceased spouse and have to go through what we lovingly call senior isolation? I would like to think that an AI conversational bot could help with those people. And finally, what about the 13% of Asian Americans that valiantly try to celebrate Diwali across extended family, literally spanning multiple time zones and continents? That could be a very cool metaverse meetup app. And so what I'm calling Spirituality 3.0 is basically not just the democratization, I'm using Web3 language here, but it's about the digitization of spirituality. That's a big idea. That's a global unlock. And so what I would like to challenge people at this conference, very smart colleagues and friends, is instead of kind of standing back and standing in the sidelines and kind of waiting and watching this happen, join us, join me, help try to marry the awesome platforms and innovations of Web3 with this emerging world of Spirituality 3.0. Thank you.